I didn't hit the start button yet. Have you ever had a wedgie?
Never, ever, ever have I ever had a wedgie.
You sure about that?
I'm quite positive.
Did you ever get
And if I did
pants
have
in
one,
school? Or did you ever get a
did I
swirly?
wear? No, never had a swirly.
Can you think of one time in your life where you were a loser?
Yes.
Not today.
All of the times.
That doesn't count. But like, something embarrassing.
Oh, yes, I can. Many times.
Yeah, well, we're live now, anyways. So, hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Court of Random Opinion. My name is Lauren Neidigh. I'm here with my friend Omar Serrato, the Tilted Lawyer, and he is a loser. So, we were just talking about the judges agreeing to the motion to strike and all that. But we're going to go through the affidavit and all that first, and then we'll talk about Omar's thoughts on why, the judge ruled the way he did. But also, I just want to point out that, Omar, I didn't tell you this last night, but when you leave, and we join our streams, and when you leave StreamYard, I still have control of your stream. And so I was sitting here drunk with power, thinking, what can I do to ruin this man's life right now?
That's a horrifying thought.
I didn't do it because I'm a good friend, but you should just know in the future, if it happens again, I will absolutely ruin your reputation.
Well, like, what are you supposed to do? Like, if you're dual streaming, like I'm not doing it now.
I have no idea. Yeah, I have no idea.
Like, how do you end it then? I haven't. Well,
you don't wait till the host ends it, I guess.
I guess.
Yeah,
but hilarious.
If you let that happen again, and I embarrass you as much as I intend to, you might want to end it a different way.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right, let's I'm gonna pull up this affidavit, which is the first thing that came out today. Oh, we lost Omar, but he'll be back. He's on his phone, which always cuts out. He didn't leave because of my threat. Let's see. We'll go to the letter first. Hey, man.
I accidentally kicked myself out trying to mess with the comments.
Oh, you did me a favor then.
Well.
All right. So here was the letter where they were talking about or they were responding, I guess, to the Ezra Hudson letter where they were saying, Bryan was making a statement that was not grounded in reality or whatever. He says the premise of the motion is that I made a deliberate and shameless misrepresentation to the court and that the facts set forth in the May 14th letter are false and unfounded. That is not so. Attached here too as Exhibit 1 is an affidavit executed under penalty of perjury stating the factual basis for the statement set forth in the May 14th letter. Notably, the motion is signed not by Michael Gottlieb, whose conduct gave rise to my office's issuance of a subpoena to Venable, but instead by another attorney from a different firm representing the lively defendants. I didn't think that was a huge deal, but maybe that's just me. The motion also faults the May 14th letter for being filed without evidentiary support of any kind, much less anything under oath. This opposition supplies the sworn affidavit that Lively argues that the May 14th letter lacked. Finally, and most notably, the motion claims that the facts set forth in the May 14th letter are unequivocally and demonstrably false, yet it is unsupported by any sworn declaration to that effect, much less by Mr. Gottlieb. So before we actually get into the contents of the affidavit, just based on these two paragraphs, what are you thinking here? Like, it's not signed by Gottlieb, who he alleged was part of this misconduct. What does that mean to you, if anything?
Well, it just means that you're all right. So they're basing their motion on argument alone because they're saying I don't have any. They're saying I have made a request without evidence. So here's my subpoena, here's my declaration under penalty of perjury that I have information that supports my claims. And they just don't like it. And so they have not based their arguments on anything other than they don't like it. They don't have any sworn declarations to support their claims, and certainly not putting themselves on the line under penalty of perjury. If Gottlieb doesn't like it so much, why doesn't he submit his own declaration that I would never do such a thing? Probably because he's probably done something to that effect, and he knows that I know that, and that's why they're so up in arms. Just reading between the lines, that's what's going on.
I muted myself. Okay.
Oh, I was thinking, wait a minute. I thought I muted myself for a minute. It's like,
No, you guys are welcome. I muted myself. Anyways, is it weird that people were expecting Gottlieb to respond to this somehow directly and sign his own affidavit and stuff like that? I'm like, I don't know if it really goes that far if they're saying it's unfounded. It's not actually sus that he didn't do that, right? Because most people like my understanding of this is kind of limited to a layperson's perspective, as is most other people's. So most people are just kind of like, well, why don't you just come out and do it? But that's not really how it works in court, is it?
No, it can't work that way. I mean, Gottlieb he has been unequivocally implicated in all this. If he
But he
really
doesn't
was
have
that
to.
confident. No, he doesn't have to, but it's pretty powerful if he submits a sworn affidavit stating that not only has that never happened, but I'll attest right now that I have never, ever in my life, ever extorted anybody for any kind of gain by threat of releasing 10 years of text messages for anybody, let alone not Blake Lively, Taylor Swift. It would be pretty compelling if he submitted that, because then Freedman's declaration that he has insider info that he specifically did those things would have less weight, either less weight, or it'd be significantly more compelling. So, well, I guess we're going to find out then, huh? Because he's saying all of that. Yeah. But if it comes to pass that there's smoking gun evidence that he actually did those things, then he's perjured himself and he's in a whole lot more trouble. So no, he doesn't have to submit a declaration.
Yeah.
But it would certainly help the cause. And they're going to have oral arguments on this issue, and nothing has been decided about whether or not they're going to quash the subpoena. All they did was strike.
Oral arguments. They haven't set up anything like that, but you're sure that's going to happen? Like,
I thought they requested them in the motion to quash that we read yesterday.
The motion to quash. I'm not positive. The intervene and quash, or the regular motion to quash in Venable?
I don't remember specifically which document. I thought I saw a request for oral arguments.
Let me pull that up. Hold on. Because it would have been, let's see, it would have been either Venable Taylor Swift's counsel, which seems unlikely since they're apparently cooperating in good faith now. And then there would be Ryan and Blake's attorneys who may have asked for that. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it was Reynolds and Lively's attorneys.
Okay, I got it here. All right. I'm just going to search.
Like all the way at the bottom.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay.
Never question me ever again. Let that be a lesson to you.
I'm going to have a really less than charmed life if that's the case. Okay. So, or the alternative for protective order, parties respectfully request an oral hearing on this motion. Okay. So you were right about that. And I'm sorry about the swirly that you received in high school that you're not admitting to, but here we are. You know, both of us are imperfect, basically. Okay. So, and is that ever not granted in these situations, or you think that's definitely going to be a thing?
No, I think they're going to grant it. There's no harm. Look, they've already sent benchmarks. If we have issues, then we can have hearings and present oral arguments to the judge. He's already set the ground rules for that. And this is an example of them following those rules. And so there's no reason not to have it. And I think that under this specific circumstance, hell yeah, they're going to have some oral arguments, because those are highly incendiary allegations on Freedman's part. He's now submitted a sworn affidavit as an offer of proof that it's not just smoke and mirrors. There's actually some substance to it. He stated in his letter that got stricken that, look, if it comes to pass that there's nothing here, then I'll drop it. But I can't ignore the fact that I know this. I'm not going to, and he said exactly what I told you he was going to say last night. He said, I'm not going to reveal my source to you right now, but if you want me to reveal my source, I will.
Is there any scenario where the court would have just said, like, yeah, tell us, like right now? Just tell us.
But they would but they do it like in chambers, like off the record.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and I think that part of like what is going to happen is based on his offer of proof, so that whoever this person isn't like, I don't know, harassed. They'll probably be allowed to keep it secret, because it's basically for the purposes of impeachment at this point. Okay. In some aspects, anyway. I'm not so sure that the judge necessarily is going to need like the identity of whoever this person is. I think it's enough that he has a sworn affidavit from Freedman And I'm sure they're going to have a mechanism to disclose certain things to the judge if he thinks that Freedman's is full of shit. I just don't think that that's the case. I think the motion to strike was based on something completely different. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted to ask about this. So they're saying, what was the exact wording here? Counsel for Taylor Swift. Okay. During the February 14th phone call, which lasted approximately 1 hour, the speaker told me that they had been informed that J. Douglas Baldridge, counsel for Taylor Swift and a partner at Venable LLP, had received a phone call from Michael Gottlieb, counsel for Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds, during which Mr. Gottlieb requested, on Miss Lively's behalf, that Taylor Swift make a social media statement in support of Miss Lively, given her absence from the Super Bowl that year. It wouldn't have done her much favor, just as an aside note, would not have done her much favor to be with Taylor Swift that Super Bowl where Taylor Swift was relentlessly booed. But okay. And stated that if Miss Swift failed to do so, Miss Lively would release 10 years of private text with Miss Swift. The individual also told me that they had been informed that Mr. Baldridge had accused Mr. Gottlieb of extortion and ended the call. So I guess they followed up, Mr. Baldridge allegedly followed up with an email so that they would have something on the record to say this is what happened or this is what you said or whatever. But I'm curious, like some of this stuff that was, and we don't know obviously the exact source, but some of the stuff that was said by the source, I saw a message that said like, so they're saying a third party told a fourth party that something else happened. That doesn't really have any weight.
Right.
I don't know
it's double and triple hearsay. And so,
yeah.
And Freedman even admitted that, look, I'm not saying that like I have smoking gun evidence. I'm just saying I have a source that's telling me things and I'm specifically issuing subpoenas to get to the bottom of it. And that's all. And it's not a thread that I could ignore without committing an act of malpractice. And so therefore I'm doing my due diligence and I'm entitled to ask my questions and I'm entitled to issue subpoenas that are relevant to this case that may be dispositive of any of the relevant issues that are inherent in the complaints. That's what he's saying.
Okay. Gotcha.
And he's saying it just like that too. That was my Freedman impression. I don't know how I did.
That sucked, man. All right. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything else in the affidavit here. On a later call with the same individual, the individual told me that Mr. Baldridge had sent a written communication to Mr. Gottlieb relating to their phone conversation. My office issued a subpoena to Venable LLP for the purpose of seeking the aforementioned written communication. I mean, if all this stuff happens over the phone, how can you really prove that? Even if you have an email, and I'm just curious about that. Even if you have an email, like I believe it, right? Yeah. But how can you really prove it if it all happened over the phone?
Well, you can't. You're going to have somebody come in and say that, yeah, I made that phone call.
And then it just comes down to who's more believable if they're trying
or
to.
Or I was a witness to the phone call. Like I'm sure that they're going to have those two gentlemen mentioned in the declaration deposed and corroborate that, yeah, I recall that happening. And whoever his unidentified source is, I'd imagine, is going to be deposed based on some of the stuff that he's supposed to get in this subpoena that hasn't been caught yet.
Rookie mistake, man.
Well,
it's fine. I did it earlier. Schnitzel Ninja's here. My two favorite streamers. Hey, how's it going?
What's up, Ninja?
Thanks for popping in. Are you guys doing Vlad tomorrow?
That is going to be tricky. I'm going to try.
Gotcha.
I'll be on my way to Mexico.
Oh, so no, don't do that.
If I do, it's going to be like in the comfort of whatever. We rented a place. So if I don't do it tomorrow, it's going to be Saturday or something. We'll see. I'll figure it out.
I mean, honestly, you could just put it off for a week. I don't think anyone would blame you.
I guess do a stream a rerun or something. Maybe we'll do that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I probably mocked it the first time, but I can do it again.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here is so this is the order on the motion to strike where he granted. So this is probably where most of the concern is based on what happened today. I've gotten lots of messages talking about, the judge is, the judge is biased or the judge is this and that. And so I wanted to get your perspective on this just to kind of give some people some peace of mind that maybe that's not exactly what's going on here. So if you could please explain the thought process here to us, that I'm sure that would help a lot of people.
Well, if I had incendiary allegations that I was going to make of opposing counsel, there's not a chance that I personally would ever air that out inside the courtroom. We'd go in chambers and discuss it with the judge or do a conference call before we had the hearing. That's pretty commonplace because I don't know what's going to like inflame the senses of the judge. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to play dirty pool like that. And so what the law says is that the courts have a duty to guard against basically defamatory statements and allegations that they're allowed to make because they're shielded by litigation privilege, using the docket for the purpose of arousing the flames of media who are going to take these stories and run with it and create a media circus.
Who would do such a thing as to run with a story right away when it comes on the docket?
I remember I was telling you yesterday that, if Freedman wanted to make a PR statement, he'd just call TMZ. But instead he wrote a letter to the judge, but not thinking, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. And then it becomes something different, more official, and then the media picks up on it and they're still doing all the same things. It's important to understand that the motion to strike being granted has nothing to do with the merits of this case, has nothing to do with the merits of the motion to quash the subpoena. All of that is still up in the air. All this is the judge telling Freedman, look, you and I both know what you did. You've been around the block. You know exactly what you did, and I don't appreciate it. There's many different mechanisms to disclose to me that you had an offer of proof that would have supported your subpoena, whatever. You didn't ask me for anything. This isn't even in my jurisdiction. It's incendiary. You knew the media was going to pick up on it. You shouldn't have done it. And if you do it ever again, I'm going to sanction you, is what he said.
Yeah. Okay.
He's going to punish him really hard.
Omar, this is not your fantasy, okay? We can tone it down a little bit.
Well, I mean, that's what he said. Yeah, but it was just
I don't think he said, I'm going to punish you real hard.
At the very end, the very last sentence of that order was...
The court... Okay, hang on. Counsel's advised that future misuse of the court's docket may be met with sanction. Is not a porno that you're describing. Like, what are you doing?
I mean, when a judge says that, they're basically telling you, if you ever do this again, you will be punished. That's what they're saying. That's what Freedman is saying. Or Judge Liman is saying.
Maybe that was the goal. Yeah. No, yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. I also just want to speak to so like some of the reactions to this are a little concerning to me because I'm worried about people kind of taking things too far. I understand everyone's welcome to their opinion. If you want to say, like, I think the judge is biased, if you really believe that, that's totally fine. You know, express yourself and your worries and concerns. But there are people saying, like, they're trying to start, like, letter writing campaigns to the judge, recuse yourself and stuff like that. I'm like, no, this is just like a kind of a procedural thing. This does not seem like a bias thing to me. I know none of us wanted to see necessarily the motion to strike be granted, but that doesn't mean that there's a bias issue here at this time. I don't think that this is really as concerning as many people are taking it to be, but that's also because I've, had the privilege of talking to some other attorneys that I know who have kind of said the same thing and put my mind at ease. So I wanted to see if you could do that, for some other people who don't necessarily understand what's going on. I think that, maybe doing like a letter writing thing and stuff like that, I think it's taking it a little far. I think that wouldn't be very good to do. I think that would flood, obviously, somebody who doesn't need to be flooded with more fucking papers, with stuff that's just like not really pertinent to the case. It's just like, I don't want to cause any problems. At the same time, I'm hesitant to be like, don't do that, because I'm afraid people are going to think I'm just saying like, oh, wow, you're terrible. You know what I mean? But like, I understand the sentiment, but I want to tell people in a certain way that kind of like conveys the message without being too like, I don't want to sound holier than thou, I guess, because I understand your feelings and all that. It's just like, I don't think that's a good thing to do. I don't think that's a helpful thing to do, especially for Justin. If they're saying like Justin is litigating with the press, Justin is, like trying to get all these people to smear Blake. I don't think doing a letter writing and stuff like that, I don't think that's super helpful.
Well, it's not gonna do any good, I guess, is the point. The second thing is just practically speaking, the way that this judge has been ruling on all of these motions has been extremely fair and by the letter of the law.
Yeah.
It gives if I was litigating in the case, it would give me a sense of comfort that at the very least I could read this judge and know that he's adhering to the law, and it would make me more confident in my legal arguments, whatever side I was on. In the motions to compel, he gave some, he granted, he gave a little to both sides. He's trying to keep it fair. The only reason that he did this motion to strike is he's acting like the referee. He's like the parent. He's got two arguing children.
Yeah.
And he's trying to keep them in order. Hey, don't air everybody's dirty laundry in front of the entire Christmas party. Mm-hmm. You come and talk to me, in private about that. That's all he's doing. And he knew, and everybody knows, that they've set mechanisms for this. It's like, and look, even I, as a litigator, and I'm not in a high profile case like a Blake Lively case or anything, but if I was going to bring something like that, then I would 100% go to the judge and talk to him in chambers off the record, because I would want him to understand where I'm coming from before I did something that might be objectionable and get me in a lot of trouble. Freedman, I think that this was a strategic move on his part. I think he knew exactly what he was doing. He backed up his statement with his sworn affidavit saying that, look, I'm willing to say under penalty of perjury that this lead that I have is a real thing. And then he says to them, where's your affidavit? Basically goading them into doing exactly what he knows he's doing. Like, not only am I telling the truth, but I'm willing to say and put my neck on the line under penalty of perjury. Are you going to do it? Knowing full well they're not going to do it. So they're going to have these oral arguments, and they're going to go in front of the judge anyway. And that's all going to be off the record. You're not going to hear what was said, but the judge is going to make final decisions based on stuff that he hears outside of the public purview. And so this motion to strike is meaningless in the context of the case. It's just a firm admonition by the judge telling Freedman to knock it off, because I know what you did. You know what you did. This is your last chance. If you do it again, you will be punished really hard.
Yeah.
I'm not letting go of that one.
I know you're not. So curious, the oral arguments that they're having, you're saying that's not going to be publicly available. Why is it that Judge Liman allowed the public to listen in on that one court hearing? It was back in March versus the others, which have been not publicly available.
Well, they're public proceedings, right? I guess you can't broadcast it on YouTube, but they're broadcasting it for the public because the policy is they want it to be open to the public so that everything's not so secretive. You're allowed to come and listen to what's going on. However,
like these oral arguments, would that be a public?
It depends, because, like, for example, like even when you watch some of these criminal cases that are televised, even then there are times where they cut the mics off and they go conference with the judge, and they're talking about stuff that they don't want the jury or the public to hear. And so it would be literally the equivalent of that. So they might have the oral arguments, but they will probably take the stuff about his source out of the public, maybe in chambers or something.
But everything else would be.
Yeah, like you'll hear probably the full, the gist of it. You'll get the gist, but you're not going to get everything.
I'm going to go to that, right? Like I'm going to
all the way up in really.
Yeah, I'll go to that.
Wow. Well, all right.
Man, fuck it.
I like how I got an invitation.
I'm going all in on this reporting stuff. Like fuck it at this point. No, you're not invited.
You can't come. You were not in. Never mind.
You're not invited to the hearing that's open to the public.
I can't say anything around you that I know you're not thinking about in like some kind of a dirty way.
No, you can't. I mean, nobody could, though, to be honest. So I just hide it better with some people than others, and you're not one of those people I feel I need to mask for. It's not even that I'm having dirty thoughts. It's just that I have inappropriate, like, my brain immediately goes to the funniest thing, I think, and it's like always.
I know how your brain works. I understand.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, no, but if they do like a public hearing, dude, getting from Jackson to DC, it's not hard. It doesn't take more than a couple hours. I'll go to that. Yeah. Fuck. I'll go to that.
Why not? Why not? Why not? You're about to do the Hales trial. At some point.
I tapped out of that. So I felt like it was getting pretty intense. The Hales trials. I was supposed to go and film in person that thumbnail hearing, and then things kind of got a little more combative, I feel, and that's been postponed and postponed and postponed. And I'm a little worried about jumping into the middle of that because I don't have my footing the way that I do with this or with Laura Owens. And so I'm
No,
kind
I
of like,
got you.
I don't know if I really want to insert myself into this situation where I don't feel like I personally understand really well what's going on. And also when people are fighting so much against each other back and forth to the point where they're like, kind of
Yeah.
like, and some of the stuff that it may be inflammatory, but it may also be, kind of, there's some truth to it, but at the same time, I want to be able to say when I cover stuff, yes, I know this for certain. Yes, I feel certain about this. I've talked to people who were there. I've talked to people who know people who were there at least, or something like that. Or I've talked to people who, understand the situation or the court documents, like I talked to you, better than I would. And I just haven't done that in that case. So I just can't,
don't blame you.
I can't in good conscience, like really stick myself in there and then be like, oh yeah, this person's right or this person's wrong. Because even though, the tendency is always going to be to side with your friends. And I have lots of friends who are covering that case. But at the same time, it's like, I want to have some air of credibility where I'm like, I'm not just going to side with people that I like. I'm going to make my own opinion and I'm going to act accordingly. So, and I just genuinely don't have the time to catch up on all that mess because it sounds so messy. So I might just tap out of that media thing that I was doing. I still have the access if I want it, but I don't know. I was thinking about contacting the court and just being like, hey, listen, can't make it.
I think if you didn't show, I don't think that they would come looking for you.
No, they probably would arrest me and send me to jail with Sarah Boone. So
But
she
yeah,
would
don't blame me at
she
all.
would lock me in my prison belongings bag and I would die. So it'd be fine.
I know all the way out of that case, man. There's no chance. Yeah, I don't got the time for all of that. And then like some of the people were contacting me. It's like, yeah, I don't know who you are, and I'm not like gonna get on your side. I'm out, man. Whatever
I
you
know.
all are doing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about because I've talked to people
Yeah.
on both sides of that case. Because the same people, I'm probably the same people who reached out to you. We're not going to say their names right here, but
Nope.
they reached out to me as well. And I actually spent
Yeah.
hours on the phone with at least one of them, and I heard them out, and I've heard both sides, and I'm still like, I honest to God, I don't know what I'm talking about here. So I can't really, in good conscience, like I said, do anything related to this and feel good about it. So
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. I'm gonna read some of these. Hang on. Just Ricardo, thank you for the 2 lovelies. Omar and Lauren, you rule. Thank you very much. Yes, His Majesty of the scrolling, he rules. Millennial Mom, thank you for the $2 super sticker. I appreciate you. MB Shotzi, thank you for becoming a member of the YouTube channel. I recognize you because I know that cat picture. Millennial Mom, thank you for the 2. What's next? Tomorrow is Friday predictions. The response to Jed Wallace's amended complaint, not the response, but the motion to dismiss Jed Wallace's amended complaint will come out tomorrow. Because that's in the Texas court, and they granted Blake Lively that extension. So that is due tomorrow at midnight, but I think it might be in the Texas time zone, which means I'm just never going to sleep again. Let's see. Chaos in Her Mind gifted 1 membership. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Millennial Mom, thank you for the 5. Please elaborate. Where is the sham subpoena? Lively parties still haven't shared / produced. Okay, let me hang on to that one because we're going to talk about that in just a second. I just want to read this last one. And the Christy, thank you for the 2. Whether it's stricken or not, the public now knows. I agree. I love mess. I love reading about mess. I just don't always love inserting myself into it. So, but yeah, let's see. Okay. Where is the sham subpoena? Lively parties still haven't shared / produced. So I'm a little, I guess, also a little confused. Like, this was written about in letters recently and in motions recently, but it hasn't been addressed by the judge. But I expect that it won't for a little bit.
Well, I think. Well, number one, people have it. Like the Daily Mail has it.
Yeah, that's weird, dude. And not that just the Daily Mail. I think Page 6 also has a copy.
Yeah, Freedman mentioned once that he hasn't seen it. I don't know if he's since seen it.
They've said in recent filings that they have not in the last week.
That's bizarre to me. I don't understand. There's not a chance
Stephanie
to get
Jones is
for it.
not. Stephanie Jones is like, I'm not giving you that. Sorry. And
Yeah,
Blake Lively
and
is also like, I'm not giving you that. So.
But I've also not seen a motion to compel it, and so who knows what's going on. I'd imagine that it's going to be a topic for conversation. That's probably some of the stuff that we're not hearing about right now because that is incendiary. Because you're impugning the character specifically of attorneys in a way that it's not technically a crime, and I don't know. Maybe they're keeping that. I'm as confused about the missing subpoena as everybody else.
I mean, apparently it's not missing. It's just not being produced to the right people.
Yeah, I don't understand Freedman not seeing it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. Are they purposely hiding it? Are they, do they have it already and just not saying anything? Are they preparing for some kind of motion for summary judgment, some kind of motion for sanctions? I don't know. But I have no clues based on the recent filings. And it's the mystery that continues to be a mystery.
Yeah. Let's see. Can you explain why this occurred in this court? Omar, I know that they had signed, Blake Lively attorneys had signed a notice to the judge that they had filed that motion to intervene and quash, but that was a necessary letter, right? That they had sent.
What was the specific question?
So they're asking about why this occurred in this court. So I know why Bryan says that he responded in this court, and that was because of the letter. But the letter, the initial letter, was that was necessary, wasn't it? Or that they had to notify the judge, or
they brought it up. No, they notified the judge. They wrote a letter to Liman. They're the ones that initiated it.
Okay, so they didn't have to notify him, or they did have to notify him. I'm confused by that.
Well, it affects parties in the case. And so it's it's a subpoena that doesn't have any direct bearing on this litigation. It's in a different district or whatever, a different courtroom. Court doesn't have jurisdiction over it. And they're complaining about it being an improper runaround in discovery. They should be going to the parties directly. And we're hearing that there's this other thing, and they're requesting stuff that has, that has no bearing on this case directly, but it's this roundabout way to get stuff that they should be going directly to us for. And they wanted the judge to quash it, I guess, or speak on it. And then Freedman responds. And the reason why Freedman didn't ask them to do anything, he basically opposed their motion, but he writes this letter saying, no, I'm doing this because this is what's going on. I have a source and whatever. And that's the thing that got stricken. Mm-hmm. So lively parties are the ones that brought it up to this court. Was it the proper venue? I'm not sure. I think they probably should have raised that issue in the other case. But I think what they're really doing is making the judge aware of this conduct and this case to the extent that it may affect potential sanctions in this case, that it may run afoul of discovery in this case, to the extent that it does run afoul of the discovery rules in this case. Maybe the judge does have the power to do something about it, which I'm honestly not altogether sure about.
Gotcha.
But the point is, they started it, and Freedman responded, and now here we go.
And she also says, I ran out of characters. I thought this affected the situation in D.C. So this will not affect the situation in D.C. at all, will it? I mean, not really.
This
strike?
No. Strike? No. Right. This doesn't even affect this case.
Right. So it doesn't really mean much. Yeah.
No,
so
it's just a warning.
I'm like worried. Yeah. When people say stuff like, oh my God, the judge is corrupt and all that, it's like, it doesn't really mean anything.
No. So. It's just a warning. It's like, knock it off.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all this was.
Yeah. Missy, thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate you. Okay. Yeah. So that was, I guess that was pretty much all we had to go over tonight. I just really wanted people to hear from somebody, who has, who can give them a confident message that this is not really a devastating thing. And also that the judge is, this does not mean that the judge is like a bad, corrupt guy or anything like that. Because I really don't feel that way. So.
Well, the thing that I also said on my stream earlier is that, like, even if he is a corrupt judge, this is, if it goes to trial, is going in front of a jury.
Yeah.
And he's letting all of this evidence in, trials being public things, judges don't tend to erroneously exclude evidence. And so Liman has nothing to do in this case but be the referee. The jury's going to decide the facts. The juries will decide the truth. And so there's nothing that Liman's done so far that raises an eyebrow for me. It's all pretty standard code.
Cool. I think that's good. Millennial Mom, thank you for the 5. Omar, would you let your client extort the Tyalor Swift? Whoa, who would do that? I mean, honestly, that sounds like the dumbest thing ever. But Omar, you answer the question.
Obviously, yes. No,
What?
of course not.
Well, we're both canceled now. Fuck.
No, I would not. I would have some choice words if that was proposed to me as like some kind of a strategy. Like, if you do that, I'm out as your lawyer. I will literally withdraw. And if I find out that you did anything like that, I'm out. It's exactly what I would say.
Yeah. Let's see. Will judge rule on a BF's 204 letter sham discovery? Yeah, that's the Edgeworth security stuff. We kind of touched on this yesterday, but I feel like we could be a little more clear on that maybe. So like he has not ruled on Stephanie Jones' motion to quash those third-party subpoenas to Edgeworth.
No.
Okay. Yeah. So they're saying, will he rule on that sham discovery? So eventually, yes, right? But it's gonna take as long as it takes, I believe, is what you said.
Yeah, all of the motions that are currently pending will be decided one way or the other, unless they become moot. In other words, like we moved on and the motion no longer matters. He's done that several times with several of the 12B6s because of amended complaints and things. But yeah, whatever is pending will be ruled upon. The fact that he's not ruling upon them is because there's stuff going on behind the scenes. There's still fact gathering. And so nothing to worry about there.
I hear you. Millennial Mom, thank you for the 2. Why did the judge respond so quickly to this?
Because
it's pretty straightforward, right? I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. It's not like he doesn't really have to do too much.
No, it's because if he thinks that by doing this, by allowing that letter to stay on the docket, it's going to have some prejudice to either side, then he has to rule on it quickly. He's not going to just let this linger for a month and then all the damage is done. If somebody wants something stricken from the record, they're going to review that immediately. And I think he responded within like an hour of Freedman lodging his affidavit in his opposition, where he's basically calling him out. It's like, here's my affidavit. Where's your affidavit? And he's like, yeah, we're striking this.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that was it. I just want to end on this note. I understand lots of people after hearing this are still going to think the judge is biased. You're all welcome to your opinions. Please don't start a flame war. I don't want to see people who are like fighting over whether the judge is biased or not. You know, if you're going to do that, be respectful, express your opinion respectfully, and that's fine. You can say whatever you want to say. Personally, I just wanted to put out there that this was maybe not as bad as a lot of people thought it was. And I personally don't take this specific thing as any sort of indication that the judge is biased, just because of the specific circumstances. And like, this didn't really seem to affect this docket that much, if at all. I mean, you said it pretty much doesn't. It was just like a warning, like don't do this, like don't like litigate this way or whatever. And it's still ongoing in the DC court. Like they're still going to hash out this issue. So it's not like it's completely thrown out.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything is still on the table.
All right. Well, that's all. That's pretty much all I got for everybody tonight. Omar, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on?
Nope. I'm going to go get ready for my vacation and put the girls to bed and try to make sense of what's happening in the next few days.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Do not overextend yourself. Don't be streaming while you're going to Mexico with your family.
You know, every time I say, oh, I'm going to stream while I'm on vacation, it never happens. And so I probably won't.
Don't do that. Well, that's actually not true, because when the Laura Owens trial was going on, you were in Hawaii, weren't you?
Oh, I had to do that one. That was the big trial. Like I was like I was up at 6 a.m. in Hawaii, live streaming the
I remember because you sat there for the first few minutes of your stream talking to yourself while the roadcaster was muted.
I remember.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight, and Omar, thank you for being here. We appreciate you. Good night, guys.
Yes, man. Y'all take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah, see you later.